Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans, about veterans by veterans, is a project of Willing Warriors and the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run.
Good morning. I'm Larry Ziliak, your host, Director of Culinary Services here at the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run. And today our guest is Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Willson. He is with the Soldier for Life program, the Army Soldier for Life program, which I've been wanting to get him on as a guest ever since he brought some of his team out to visit the Warrior Retreat and found out about his program. And it's just very interesting to me, mainly because when I was in the Air Force, but I think all branches were pretty similar at that time. Back at 83, when you got out, and there was no transitioning. There was, hey, okay, see ya. And this program, the Soldier for Life program, just fascinates me. So, Colonel, welcome to the podcast. We really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with us today. And if you would, just give us a little bit of background on your time in the Army and how you came to be with the program.
First of all, thanks for having me on and allowing the opportunity to talk about, one, the Army, and two, what the Army is doing with the Soldier for Life program. And as you mentioned, the opportunity we had to come visit you, the team, and the facilities was a true privilege to see the work and the resources that are being done to provide help, assistance, and a community to really service members, veterans, and families. But to the question, I actually joined the Army in 1994 as a reservist, and I joined to be a truck driver. Both my parents retired from the military, and I didn't really want to do it full time, have some stability and settle down and have some roots. But one thing I like to talk about in the military, and although I did not know it at the time, is the tremendous opportunities that are available to service members once they join. So in my case, I was in the reserves for a little over 10 years, and then I had an opportunity to receive a commission, and then there was another opportunity to go active duty, and I mean the list just keeps going on and on. So although this was not my plan, and quite frankly, I don't know that I had a plan at 17 or 18, but the opportunities that have been afforded to me, we talk about travel all the time, but really for me, one of the best gifts of the military is it's the people. It's the people you meet along the way. Some of them will remain in contact and, friends for the rest of your lives. Others are just kind of, short time, but, that opportunity to meet people and develop, relationships. And the other thing, it's provided for my family and I. So, overall, would not change a thing. I think it's important, and we talk about this, within our program quite a bit. We have to tell our positive Army story for others to, hear it and, kind of be introduced to some of the opportunities that are available that, they may not be aware of. And really, in today's, in our society today, if you don't have, a family member or friend or live around a military installation, your exposure, to any service, may not be what it could have been, or you may not be introduced to those opportunities. How I got here today, I think we're all aware, we every 2 or 3 years, you're up for a new assignment. So this opportunity came available with the Army Soldier for Life program. I was afforded the opportunity to move here, PCS here, and hit the ground running. And that's been about a year and a half ago.
Looking at the program itself, tell us the concept behind it. What was the Army thinking when they developed the program?
Yeah, so we'll take you back to 2011, 2012 timeframe, and that's when the program was stood up and initiated. And at the time, it was a direct report to the Chief of Staff of the Army, and the intent of the program was to combat the veteran unemployment rate at the time. Initially, this program, reported directly to the chief of staff, and it was, the eyes and ears, as it was then, it is today. We're focused on, travel, so traveling within, our specific areas or our specific functions, getting out to the communities, seeing what resources are available, engage with community leaders, identify best practices, and if there, are some friction points, start that conversation and engage and see how we can break down some of those barriers. So since 2012, it's kind of moved around a couple of different times, but most recently, within the past year and a half or so, program now lies under TRADOC, Training Doctrine Command, which is headquartered out of Fort Eustis, Virginia. So really now the program is focused. There's some pillars that, we like to talk about that we're focused on. But overall, it's the mindset. So TRADOC is currently in charge of the accessions, so recruitment and bringing soldiers in. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that, from the very first handshake through military honors, you're a soldier for life. And yes, you absolutely have the opportunity to serve while you're in uniform. But once you take that uniform off, there's still numerous opportunities that, individuals can do, volunteering at a local organization. It could be as simply as telling your Army story and the opportunities that were afforded to you to, chance encounters or, individuals in the neighborhood. They're teaching JRTC. There's many, opportunities. So that's kind of the foundation of where we're at, the mission of the program currently. One thing I would like to add is a few years back, really there was one acronym that encompassed two programs, and I'm sure there'll be some listeners familiar with the acronym SFL TAP. That is no longer the acronym that we use, and they're two separate programs under two separate commands. So as I mentioned, Soldier for Life is under TRADOC, and we're an outreach advocacy program that connects and engages with government and non-government organizations that support soldiers, veterans, and family members. Mm-hmm. And when I say soldiers, we can replace that with service members. Mm-hmm. So yes, it's an Army program. That's the intended audience. But when we're out, at events and we're speaking, the programs that are available to the Army are the exact same programs and organizations that are available to any service member.
Mm-hmm. When we look at some of these pillars that you're talking about, what are the core pillars of the program? I see from the webpage we've got employment assistance, educational programs, health and wellness, and retirement planning, which is a huge change. Like I said, from when I was in, there was no transitioning assistance. There was no preparing for what the life after the Army or the branch of service you were with was going to be like. If you could just touch on each one of these pillars briefly and just give us an overview, what a soldier would find with each of these.
Before I jump into that, I left out the second part of the previous answer.
Okay.
So if I can just go back a minute. So SFL TAP, I've talked already about Soldier for Life, but the second part of that is TAP, which is the actual transition assistance program.
Okay.
And that program is under HRC, Human Resources Command, out of Fort Knox. Mm. So it used to be synonymous. It used to be tied together, but now they're really two separate entities. So TAP, if we're not familiar with it, that's the actual program that service members partake in up to 12 months prior to their transition. Mm. So there's classes, there's events, briefings, workshops that transitioning service members, some are voluntary and then others are they're mandatory that individuals go through this. And to your point, Larry, when you said, hey, you were kind of in one day, the next day, you were out, you had a DD 214 and you were, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
The Army and the military in general, has absolutely gone away from that. The transition of service members is extremely important, and I'll kind of lay out, why it's important, if that's okay, and then I'll jump into these pillars that we focus on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so really, we'll use last year's data, and I like to use this as the why. Like, why is this important, and why do we have this, and why are we doing this? So for FY23, and this is solely for the Army, over 130,000 individuals transitioned from the Army last year. And that's all three components. So that's active duty, guard, and that's and reserves. So we'll kind of drill down here a little bit. And so of that 130 plus thousand, approximately 60,000 of those individuals were active duty. And then of that 60,000 number, 80% of those individuals fall into three categories. These rough categories. They're 18 to 34 years old. They're E1 to E6, and they have 1 to 10 years of experience. So that transition is extremely important for those individuals because they're not retiring. They're actually looking for that next step in their career. And, when we transition, a lot of times it's just not ourselves, right? There's a spouse, there's kids, there's family members, extended family, whatever that is. So, getting the transition rights and to continue to improve on that and, affording and allowing transition to service members the opportunities, to set them up for success the best that we possibly can. So then with the transition, program, they're going through classes such as, employment, education, health and wellness, that type of stuff. So so you have the TAP is one entity, one approach, and that's getting the individual successfully transitioned from the military. And then you have Soldier for Life. So the Soldier for Life program, does not specifically assist an individual transitioning from the military. It's not like you come to Soldier for Life, you complete some classes, and then your paperwork is checked off on. And really the idea and the mentality of our program, the Soldier for Life program, is, once again, as soon as you get in the military, you're made aware of opportunities while you're in the military programs, to help you start thinking through that process upon the transition. And I like to tell, when I'm talking, that the transition isn't just, the last 12 months of your contract or, your service obligation. It's really could be the life of your service as you build upon that and prepare to exit. So then to kind of round out your question, Soldier for Life really has four, we call them, functional areas or pillars that we focus on. And there's a team over each one of these areas. It's employment, education, health and wellness. And then the fourth one we throw in there is community outreach. So that is our efforts. As I mentioned, there's a team over each one of those areas. And then in addition to that, we're broken down into 4 regions. So, specifically, I have responsibilities for the West and the Northeast.
And just so our listeners are clear too, this is not a physical place. It's not like on an Army base that it's a place where you go to the Soldier of Life building or anything like this. This is a program that is built around resources and getting the word out to Army soldiers, what's available for them through their career, but then on beyond their career, however long that would be. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's absolutely accurate. And then Larry, if I can, I'll just kind of expand upon, the pillars and
yeah,
you're absolutely right when you said, resources that we advocate for or, educate about. So, the Soldier for Life program is not the proponent of any program or any service, right? So, our program cannot assist you, with the actual benefit of, education or food insecurities or, homelessness or, provide you employment. But what we can do and what we do is we help wade through the sea of goodwill. So there's a vast amount of organizations, with a mission that entails supporting soldiers, veterans, and family members. And I like to say, it's me after 20 something years in the military and kind of where I'm at today. If I have a tough time navigating that, how does Private Willson understand, hey, this is a program that may be beneficial, and maybe maybe this other one's not quite right for you at this particular time.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about education, we like to talk quite a bit about, one, the Army resources that are available. So things like Army Ignited, the Cool program, and then there's some other organizations not tied to the Army, Student Veterans of America, and then there's a lot of universities out there that are veteran friendly and have programs that support veteran students. But a couple that just come to my mind is Syracuse University, Purdue, Cornell. Those are three, and I get some feedback that I didn't list all these other ones. But the point is, it's best practices, kind of the part of the country, and for education, we like to just identify that along with other government and non-government programs that are available. When it comes to employment, there are DOD Army specific programs that we talk quite a bit about, and DOD Skillbridge. If you're not familiar, it's essentially an internship opportunity that an individual can partake in, for a specific amount of time prior to their transition. The Army has a career skill program, which is very similar to the DOD Skillbridge. It's internships, and there's cohorts, kind of environment. The Army has a PACE program, stands for Partnership for Your Success. The highlight of that program is that upon a transitioning service member, they can choose from a list of companies in the area that they're transitioning to, up to 5 that'll guarantee them an interview. So it doesn't guarantee them the job, but it guarantees them, the interview. And really, that's so when we're talking quite a bit about service members and the services that are available to them. But in this case, this is an opportunity for the PACE program, and then Soldier for Life. When we're out talking to organizations that, hey, like, did you know about this? And maybe this is an opportunity that your company, may want to partake in. Recruit military, hiring our heroes. There's a very vast military network on LinkedIn, that we like to promote. And actually, LinkedIn is one of the strongest ways that we have to communicate, our message and promote the message of others, with about 100,000, connections.
Yeah.
And then, the last pillar, or the third pillar that, I mentioned, was health and wellness. So, we're really, as in the active duty Army, H2F, health and holistic fitness. It's the physical part, but it's also, the mental, emotional, spiritual aspect of it. There's organizations like AWP, American Warrior Partnership,
right?
The Cohen Network, is one that I like to talk about quite a bit. That provides social worker, counseling services to individuals. And once again, like I'm rattling off 2 or 3, and then the last thing I'll highlight is, the community outreach. So, I mentioned travel, like that's our main job, and our main focus, or a focus, of ours. And that's to go out in the communities, connect and engage, with veterans, soldiers and families. It really varies quite a bit throughout the country. So for example, like if you're in the Northeast, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire type areas where, Guard and Reserve, really strong and robust, but, not an active duty unit or base, close by. And then, you go out west and it's, a different environment as it, would be in the South or the Midwest. So it's really, getting out, understanding the need and being able to put resources against that.
Yeah. So I've got to say that I see the real value in the program is delivering resources that are qualified resources that, when you go out, like you say, and you just get on Google and you do a search and you go, I need help with this, you get a million responses and they all have fancy websites. They all look pretty good. But to have your program vet particular organizations so that a soldier or a veteran can go right to your webpage and say, okay, I need help for this, or a spouse or a military spouse. I'm interested in finding out about education. Those resources are right there on the webpage for them. They're vetted. They don't have to worry that they're going to be caught up in some sort of scam or waste their time. The Army, thank goodness, has done the work for them. I also wonder about how this helps with retention. I know that, and you mentioned that there were about 60,000 service members who separated from the Army in 2023. I also know that I think recruiting was down, and I think the Army gained about 55,000 recruits. So there's a negative number there, which is across the board in all services. Retention is an issue. Recruiting is an issue. But I got to think that this program has to contribute to keeping some of those soldiers from separating. Do you have any sense of that?
I do have a sense of it, but it's just a sense. So we're not able to
Quantify
or have data. But what we do know is that there's a growing civ-mil divide, right? So there's a growing partnership or understanding of individual and military of what's going on in the civilian world, and then civilian world, understanding military, the dynamics of that. So I think, and this is just Ray Willson speaking, but from my perspective, the more we're out in the community, specifically areas of the country that don't see, a lot of individuals, in uniform or, associated with the military, being able to talk and, have that dialogue and to be a friendly encounter, or, other times we have opportunities, to get up and speak in front of large audiences. I would like to go back a moment and just kind of clarify a little bit with the vetting. So, our office doesn't, there's no kind of checklist. There's no kind of, process that we go to or go through to say, this is a, 10-star rating. I mean, there's no, TripAdvisor stuff going on.
Right.
5-star to 1-star. But what we do, and what I specifically do, is I talk about the organizations that I'm familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I can and I absolutely talk about, the Warrior Retreat and what I know of it. One, from having a conversation with you, one from visiting the facilities and the team, and then, obviously, information that's available to research. I mean, for us, there's not an actual vetting process, but it's more of individuals, or influencers that we work with daily, and then the organizations. I don't want to say affiliated with, because we're not affiliated with anybody, but organizations that we have been involved with.
Yeah, so there's some degree of interaction there. It's not just somebody in the program sitting at a computer and compiling lists of possible resources and then offering those
That's
out.
Right.
So
that's right.
Yeah, just
right.
I get what you're saying is that it's not like TripAdvisor. It's not a vetting process. I used the wrong word, vetting. I'm sorry about that.
No, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
I didn't want the lawyers after it.
I understand that. Yeah, for sure. Before we wrap up here, I really appreciate you taking the time to explain the program, because I think it's immensely valuable. I think the more you can get out and talk to the public and let people know what the Army and what life in the Army is all about, and how, like you say, you're a soldier for life. I can't see how the Army doesn't benefit from that, for sure. But I also think it helps with retention as well. When soldiers find out about benefits that they might not even had considered as far as educational, certainly from a health well-being standpoint. Employment comes later on. Yeah, I just think it's a wonderful, wonderful program. So what's the one thing you would like our listeners to know about life in the Army?
One thing that it's greater than I could ever imagine. It's hard to pinpoint when you say, like, the one thing, right? Like, what's your one favorite food to eat? I mean, but I think I'd go back to a previous comment where it's the people. For me,
Mm-hmm.
it's the relationships that I've built. So I mean, I have relationships back 25 years with individuals, and then obviously traveling to different duty stations and locations, and
Mm-hmm.
being with people in extremely serious moments, but then also jovial moments in someone's life. And then the idea that I mean, I have a group of friends in the military that I may not talk to them but once a year, once
Mm-hmm.
every couple years, but that camaraderie and that bond that is built, it's we pick up exactly where we left off. We talk about family and where we're at in life, and then of course, I mean, I'm gonna sound like the old guy in the room, but we tell stories about something funny that happened, or
Mm-hmm.
how bad the food was.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to dig at you, Larry. I know you're an excellent cook. Yeah, but it's that bond and the shared experience, that
Yeah.
with individuals. For me, that's what it is.
I think that's true of most service members. I know it's true for myself. I talk to people that I served with 40 years ago all the time. And
Yep.
it's actually something that it's hard to explain to people who have never been in the military.
That's right.
And it's sometimes even hard to understand yourself what it is, but it is one of the things that you get from service for your country that's unexpected, but really often, like you say, the best part of service. It really is. So I agree with you 100%. I know it is for me.
Yeah, I mean, if I go back home, to where I graduated high school, and I talk about Billy Mack or a whoopee, my buddies have no idea, what that is. But if I talk that, with someone I served with 25 years ago, there's probably a story behind it. And then if I can add one more thing, if we're not not too far over on time.
No.
So it's definitely the people. But one thing that caught me by surprise and that I wasn't aware of, it's the opportunities. And you talked about the retention piece, sessions and recruiters.
Mm-hmm.
When I joined the reserves in 1994, I joined to be an 88 Mike, a truck driver, and that's what I was going to do.
Mm.
I had no idea of the world and the opportunities that were gonna open up to me, from enlisted to commission,
Mm-hmm.
bachelor's to master's, just life skills, being a leader, being around creative and innovative, thinkers. Realistically, if somebody wants to join the Army today, yes, they can, go infantry, aviation, I mean, you name the branch, or you name over 100, I think it's like 150, MOSs.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition to that, like, if you want higher education, you want to go, there's programs that are very well known, institutions for, advanced degrees.
Mm-hmm.
You can join the Army to be an athlete, right? The world-class athlete program. And this, we talk about this quite a bit, and people are like, I had no idea that I could, be in the band or become a dentist or, cybersecurity, or like whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that's our job, one, within this program, but then two, I would say, in the larger Army and military community is, when we have the opportunities, to be able to just present that message and, things that individuals, may not be aware of. I mean, we talk quite a bit about, hey, you're able to travel the world and do this. And yeah, that's great. And I've been in some places that I would have never gone to, on my own.
Right.
But there's so much more. So just kind of round out the question. One, it's the people, and two, it's the opportunities that are afforded to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And there certainly is, in all branches of the service, there's tremendous opportunities that will give you skills that you'll use all your life. And very, very often skills that you will make a lot of money with, especially in some of the specialized positions in intelligence and satellites and cybersecurity and things like that. So, yeah, if anybody's listening and they're thinking about what to do with their life, think about the military and think about the Army, and go to the Soldier for Life webpage, which is soldierforlife.army.mil, M-I-L. And you'll see all the resources, and it's a great webpage, a lot there for you. Find out what these programs are all about and how they can help you. Colonel, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, and for our listeners, we'll have another episode that will drop next Monday at 5 a.m. If you're an early riser and you don't have anything to do other than wake up at 5 and listen to podcasts, well, there'll be one waiting for you. Thanks. Take care.
The Welcome Home podcast is brought to you by Willing Warriors, a nonprofit organization serving active duty service members and veterans since 2012. To learn more, please visit our webpage at willingwarriors.org.